to the Within Podcast special edition of I Wish I Would Have Known. Today we've got Heidi Butoff and Nikki Wallace in for, what should be a very interesting conversation. Today Nikki's going to share a little bit about what she wished she would have known, I don't know, a few years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. I know. I feel like it's taken me a while to unravel it. So one thing I wish I would have known, and I'm so glad I know now, is you don't actually have to answer that email within 15 minutes or a half hour or even an hour.
No way.
So corporate America. So corporate America.
So to give you some context, when I, second job, but the one that kind of shaped where I am now, we had a rule that it was called the 124 rule. I don't know if they still do it. It would not shock me if they still do it. But we had, if you got an email or a call or a voicemail or text weren't really a thing at that point from a business standpoint, but you had 1 hour to respond. Just, hey, got your message. Yep. Okay. And then 24 hours to get a resolution. So you think about it, we were in the recruiting world. How many times we would get a phone call, an email, a question of some sort that sometimes we didn't know, right? I didn't administer the benefits. I didn't always know what the client wanted. So I'd have to go back. So a big part of our job was to be on all the time and answering those emails or those questions within 1 hour and a 24-hour resolution. I was damn good at it because I wanted to take care of my people and I also didn't want to get fired. But it has taken me years, literal years. I've not been with that company for almost 5 years at this point. And I would say in the last year or year and a half, I finally feel okay, that email does not have to sit there it does not have to be answered and it can sit there. And the kind of peace, it sounds so silly when I say it, but the relief I get of knowing that I am not having to be tied to kind of that customer service piece all the time, that it's okay to let it sit, is amazing. So I wish I would have known.
Right? I mean, I think having some sort of system in your brain that you make sure you get back to people in a certain amount of time is important, but it doesn't have to be set in stone.
Yeah.
Right? Just like your work hours don't have to be 8 to 5, Nikki, right? You can work when you need to work.
It's an amazing thing when you get that figured out. But I think it goes back to kind of a lot of things we talk about. We're so structured and we grew up kind of in a world where my hours when I worked at that company, they were 7:30 and your butt better be in that seat at 7:30. I was late by 8 minutes one time because I got held up in the Starbucks line and I was never late again because of the conversation my leader had with me. So I think at 7:30 to 5:30 were our office hours. And a lot of times you'd go out after that or you would have, client dinners or whatever, wine and dining kind of these people. And it's it takes time for your body to rewire. And that's the number one thing I see when people come to me and they want to leave their organization and do something different, or they want to start their own thing, is they feel they're just so wired to hey, I have to be on the computer at 8 a.m. or I have to be doing XYZ, by 7 a.m. or whatever their schedule used to be. And it's no. It does not need to be that. And I think the world is changing a little bit. I think there's still an expectation during work hours that things happen and things get done. But you could go do a workout class in 1 hour. The world is not going to, fall around you. So it's taken me a long time, but the freedom you get when you kind of wrap your mind around what works and what doesn't. And the communication that comes with that. I think Allie and I, and Heidi, as she's gotten involved too, it's just what's your schedule? What works for you? Allie and I have a lot of meetings where one of us is working out or, walking on the treadmill or whatever. And that's okay. And I think just being able to morph into that.
Well, even that alarm, I was telling Nikki, I'm I haven't had to use an alarm for a bit. This is the first time in a long time I've used an alarm because we got up a little earlier. I usually I let the sunrise wake me up and kind of the circadian rhythm and the health of that. Wouldn't it be amazing if we all just operated through the circadian rhythm?
I know.
How crazy would that be? But one thing, and this could be its own, I wish I would have known, is I do believe that once you set a precedence, it becomes an expectation.
Yes.
So whether that be a business owner, husband-wife relationship, when you're raising your kids, once you set the precedence, it becomes an expectation or an entitlement. It might be another way to even say it, that then it is expected. And once if you ever change it or take it away, it's a big change. And sometimes that could be a positive, meaning take away that alarm clock or take away the 8 to 5. So I do kind of just operate on, what works for me and my circadian rhythm. How powerful could that be?
Yeah, my husband and I actually talk about that a lot, because he'll talk about how he'll intentionally not answer an email, because when I was kind of first, Allie's the one that really challenged me on some of this. Like, do you really need to do that?
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And it was very uncomfortable for me, and I think you could tell, like, it was very visibly uncomfortable for me for a long time. But I would talk to Matt, and he would, he would say, I purposely don't get back to some people right away, because that is then the expectation. And he's like, and I don't want that. Like, I don't want, and I think back to my own journey when I talk about boundaries and burnout a lot with people, and they had the expectation that when they called, I would answer. And I will never forget, at one point in my career, is actually right before Matt and I got divorced. I was getting ready every morning, and I supported manufacturing. So, there's some of the factories I worked with, they worked 24/7. And I had one manager that would consistently call me at like 6 a.m. And I remember very vividly, like, a series of mornings where I'd be getting out of the shower and getting ready to go do, my work day or workout or go to work or whatever. And I would be getting calls about Joe not being at work, and what the hell am I going to do about it? And I'm like, I don't know. What am I going to do about it? And it would send my day into this panic. And so as I've kind of unwired myself and some of this, like, boundaries have been really big for me on what does work for me and my family, and what does that look like, and then being able to communicate that to make sure that, like, that is foundational, and you kind of leave that your sacred space, and know that you'll get back to it. I will get back to you, but it might not be in 10 seconds.
Yeah. So I think the whole idea of, like, not being as structured as what we've like been ingrained to think is a generational thing, like totally generational, where, like, it doesn't have to be, well, how it's always been. And I think in a workplace, like, the older generations are driving what happens, and it doesn't have to be that way, right? We just don't, our mindset can be different. And so, when I started spending a lot more time with Nikki, I was like, I don't know why, like, you don't have to start working at 7 a.m. or 7:30 or 8 or whatever. Like, I don't care. But you also have to, like, be a close enough team that you can determine, like, what does work better. And while Heidi doesn't necessarily want to get up at, whatever time to get to the office by 7:30 to start doing whatever we're doing, sometimes you have to be flexible in that if we want to be together, we're going to have to be mindful of making sure that we're not only taking care of ourselves, but taking care of each other. And again, like, that community that you're building on your team should be able to help you do that. So while I wish I would have known, like, you don't have to be the structured 8 to 5 team. You do have to be flexible with each other and understand, like, all 3 of us are morning people. Like, luckily, all 3 of us are morning people, because after 3 o'clock, like, I'm not good. It's not good. Like, I make no sense. I spell. I don't know what I'm saying. Right. But in the morning, I'm way better.
That's right. So, 6 a.m. She's good.
Yeah. 7. Right. But you just have to, like, really be good about understanding that about, your people and your team.
Yeah.
So, man, I wish I would have known.